Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Saskatchewan is reporting 29 new cases of COVID-19. 17 of those are in Saskatoon region and 4 in the Regina, 4 in the southwest and 3 in the south central and 1 in the northwest region. 7 cases are listed as active in the northwest area, which includes Lloydminster and North Battleford. 165 cases are considered active in the province. 11 people are in hospital. 5 of those are in intensive care. 1,294 people have recovered. Well, drivers transporting goods through Lloydminster could see their route change as the city is looking to update its truck and dangerous goods routes. Eric Bay has more.
Currently, dangerous goods are only allowed through the city on Highways 16 and 17, but the proposed plan would remove Highway 17 and add multiple routes on the outskirts of the city. After hearing the report, Councillor Michael Diachuk had some concerns about the proposed road's ability to handle the increased traffic.
What I see in looking at the routes, particularly around 75th Street going north and south, and the narrowness of the roads and the size of the vehicles, and there's also a very narrow shoulder on that road as well. So I'm just wondering whether or not that road can actually sustain that level of traffic and weight, perhaps, at the dangerous goods.
The new proposal would continue to use Highway 16 as both a truck and dangerous goods route, but councillors are concerned about future maintenance costs from larger traffic using the road.
Because every time the vehicle stops, it puts the pressure on the concrete, not the concrete, but the pavement, and that extra pressure on those places, on those highways, how long will it take before we have to look at expanding, the program we have where we lay the concrete in?
A restricted truck route would also be added on College Drive, but many drivers have voiced their concerns about being able to stop in time for the lights. City engineers will be looking at possible options to install a form of advanced warning to notify when the lights will change.
I've spoken to producers south of town that are challenged by the set of lights that we installed. They think it's a great idea on College Drive and 59th by the college, but at the same time, when you have 135,000 pounds of rolling iron and canola, it's not easy to stop at a 5-second or 4-second yellow light at 60 kilometers an hour following the speed limit. So there are areas that I hope our engineering team will look at. Council
will make its decision on the proposed plan this Monday. The full plan is expected to be implemented in the fall of 2021. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
Well, not-for-profit organizations have had a hard time fundraising during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jace Mackey spoke with Tyler Lorenz from Residents in Recovery for an update and to learn more about the Summer Scramble for Mental Health fundraiser.
So I'm joined today with Tyler Lorenz from Residents in Recovery. It's been a busy time for Residents in Recovery. I feel like every time we talk, there's something going on. So just starting off, maybe just fill me in on some stuff that you guys have been up to just in the past few weeks.
Sure. Well, this summer we kicked off our summer fundraiser. So we're doing a summer scramble for mental health and addictions at the Lloyd Golf and Country Club. So that kicked off on July 15th. So people can go out and golf, buy a golf package, participate in our Texas Scramble event, which lasts until August 19th. Go out and golf anytime. Just submit your scorecards and prizes will be awarded at the end. We were also doing a Chase the Ace. Only lasted 3 draws and somebody drew the ace, so that was quickly brought to an end. So I'm not too sure what we're going to do next, but we'll probably do something else here before the end of August to get another thing going. And then just working at opening a couple new locations in Bonnyville. I've been working with the town of Bonnyville and the municipal district of Bonnyville on some of that stuff as well. We're looking at doing some provincial programming for the Alberta government. So I've been working hard on putting that together as well.
When it comes to, you mentioned trying to open up some space in Bonnyville, how close are you guys to being able to do that, or is there still some hurdles that are in the way?
We were ready to do it, and then we just have to do some zoning applications now. So unfortunately, we're not able to, they have some different bylaws up there compared to Lloyd. So we have to do a couple new applications there for that. But both places are ready to go as soon as we get those approved.
So when it comes to the big fundraiser that's going on for Residents in Recovery, the Summer Scramble, you talked a bit about it, but just how are people able to get that package and take part in getting their golfing for that event?
Sure. So for $350, you get golf for two people at Lloyd Golf and Country Club, golf court, two $25 food and beverage certificates from Harvest Home Catering, good honor off the course, as well as a $150 charitable tax receipt, and lots of prizes to be awarded, as well as 2 tickets for our wind-up banquet, at the end of September. Subject to COVID, I guess we'll determine, what we're actually allowed to do or not. So those are available either at Residents for Recovery here, Lloydminster Region Health Foundation, Harvest Home Catering at the golf course, or Dark Hour Inc. So those packages are available anytime. And we're working on some packages as well for individuals that already have memberships for Lloyd Golf and Country Club. So those will probably be available later this week.
And this has been a unique year for a lot of people, but I feel like, especially for Residents in Recovery, it's been an interesting year coming out and needing to raise some funds early in the year. And obviously COVID has impacted everyone. I know that you've been looking towards the summer to be able to fundraise. So just how are fundraising goals kind of going when it comes to your organization?
It's been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I mean, we did that big fundraiser to kind of get us through to May till our actual golf tournament happened. Obviously, that wasn't able to happen. In the meantime, we were successful in getting some COVID money, as well as the wage subsidy helped out, and the $40,000 loan from the federal government also helped out. Kind of bridge that gap for us to kind of get through to now or at the end of this month. But we really need this fundraiser to do well to make up that difference and carry us through to the end of the year. We are working with Sask Health on a funding agreement right now, and I think we're within a month or two, of putting something together with them. With that being said, we still have to pay back, that $40,000 loan. So, we really need, this fundraising to really, carry us through and make up that difference that, we just can't get anywhere else. I mean, fundraising is tough right now, for sure.
And I know the community seems to always rally around Residents in Recovery. For people who are looking to be able to just donate to Residents in Recovery, what's the best way for people to be able to do that?
Yeah, through the Lloydminster Region Health Foundation, they do all of our charitable tax receipts. They drop off checks or cash at the office as well. Even if you need a tax receipt, we can get that money to the health foundation as well. So, it really is a blessing to be in a community like this. They have stuck behind us and really got us to this point. It's unbelievable, how much support we have. And we really do appreciate that, for sure.
Now to our Evan Kenny with a look at your weather forecast.
Thanks, Connor. Taking a look at your evening weather now, as we can see, 21 degrees in Lloydminster currently, with that chance of rain coming through the later parts of tonight and into tomorrow morning. Currently, winds are coming at 10 kilometers an hour from the west, but wind gusts could pick up to 50 kilometers per hour as we go on throughout the night. Taking a look now at your Alberta weather here, similar all over, 20 degrees in Edmonton, 18 in Vegreville, 21 in St. Paul, Bonnyville, and Cold Lake, as well as in Lac La Biche, 19 in Vermilion, and 20 in Provost. Taking a look now at your Saskatchewan side, 23 in Green Lake is the highest for the area, but similar to the Alberta side, everywhere staying right around that 20-degree mark. 20 degrees in Isle of Cross, 21 in Meadow Lake, St. Walbert, Maidstone, North Battleford, and in Macklin. As we keep going here, taking a look coming out of the west and southwest, there will be that rain coming up. It will also clip the northeast and northwest parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan here. Taking a look now at North Battleford, as I mentioned, currently 21 degrees, but that's going to drop overnight down to 12 degrees, 23 tomorrow. And as I mentioned, there is that chance of rain coming into the early parts of tomorrow. Cold Lake now currently 21, 11 overnight, and they are going to get some more rain showers, hopefully stopping around noon tomorrow. And then, as I mentioned, Lloydminster 21 right now, 11 overnight, and 19 degrees tomorrow with a little bit of rain. Taking a look now, tomorrow we have a high of 19 here. Thursday, a high of 20 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud, and then continuing that on to Friday with a high of 19 and a mix of sun and cloud. That's all we have for weather. We'll be coming up though with more news.
Welcome back. The Saskatchewan election candidates continue to campaign across the province and are listening to what some of the concerns are from the residents. I had a chance to chat with NDP candidate Colleen Henning about the campaigning process.
Well, joining me today is Colleen Henning, the NDP candidate for Lloydminster. Now, Colleen, I know this is your first election. It's a very different procedure for many candidates in the province, as you know, this is during a pandemic. So how are you getting the message across of the NDP party to voters here in the area?
Well, so far, when I've been outdoor knocking, I've been focused on introducing myself and asking people what their concerns are, what their concerns are as Lloydminsterites, as citizens of Saskatchewan, and what kind of things they would like to see addressed right now. And then I've sort of used those, if it's appropriate, I'll share with them things that the NDP has talked about as ways to address those. So for example, I was door knocking last night and someone expressed a concern about, the minimum wage and the inequity in Lloydminster, where on one side of the border, it's much higher than it is in Saskatchewan, higher in Alberta than in Saskatchewan, and the problems that causes. He said he wished there was a $15 minimum wage, and I was able to tell him that is actually part of our plan for revitalizing Saskatchewan after COVID. So, and that's actually been part of our plan for a long time, a $15 minimum wage. So that's sort of how I've been doing things so far, listening as much as talking.
You mentioned minimum wage being one of the things that is being brought up when you're outdoor knocking. What were some of the other things residents were bringing up to you? I know education and healthcare are big topics in Saskatchewan. So were those things that people had concerns about?
Healthcare really hasn't been brought up yet. Education has been brought up in two different ways. One is COVID and the return of elementary and secondary students to school. So particularly the lack of funding from the Saskatchewan government for schools. Both Lloydminster Catholic and Lloydminster Public are doing everything they can to make schools safe for students. Nobody doubts that. I certainly don't doubt that. I'm a teacher myself and I have great faith in both school divisions, but they are not being given the extra funds that they need to, that they should have to properly take care of students. There are extra costs associated with going back to school right now. There are extra supplies, extra cleaning supplies. There's going to have to be extra janitorial time, maybe extra janitorial staff, and they're not being given extra funding for that. So that is an issue. And another issue around education is a more general one of the Sask Party is not just not funding post-secondary education as they should. They've even been cutting back some post-secondary programs, successful ones. There's a northern program called NORTEP, it's a teacher education program for the North that was very successful and very important in, because that is a part of Saskatchewan that's struggles economically, and they cut that program completely. It's gone. So those are a couple of issues that people mentioned.
Now, I know the NDP and Ryan Miley have voiced their frustration with the Sask Party's education plan. And what have you said to residents who are still worried about not only sending their kids back to school because of COVID, but also some concerns that some residents could have when it comes to the current education plan?
I've talked to them about some of the ideas we have and the things that we think should be in place. For example, clear guidance around masks is something that we think needs to be in place, clear guidance around masking. And on Friday, the Minister of Education actually sent out a press release that said, well, we're not having masking right now in schools, but we could, but we're not, but we could, which is hardly what you would call clear guidance for anyone. So some Saskatchewan schools are doing it themselves, and they'll have to find the funds from elsewhere in their budgets to do that. Other Saskatchewan schools are not, and that is confusing for people. Is it needed? Isn't it needed? Why does one division think it's needed and another division not think it's needed? So those are the kind of things we've been talking about, and just that this plan, the way it was essentially created, each division created their own plan, but that was agreed upon back in June, that each division would create their plan, and divisions started working on their plans back in June. But things were different in June. The COVID research was at a different point in June. The state of COVID in Saskatchewan was at a different point in June. We had less COVID in Saskatchewan in June. So the plans that people were making based on June data and June information, why is that our focus in September?
And lastly, Colleen, what is your plan for the rest of the summer as we get closer to the election?
I plan at this point to continue. I will be making more phone calls soon, but I also plan to continue, the weather's good, and I plan to continue knocking on doors and meeting as many people as I can face to face, hearing what their concerns are, when appropriate, sharing with them ideas we have to address those particular concerns. Because there are other ones in Lloydminster. Jobs, obviously, is an ongoing concern, and that was a problem, an issue in Lloydminster before the pandemic, and will be an issue ongoing. And yeah, I want to be able to keep hearing from people and know what they think.
Well, Colleen, I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us.
In the world of hockey, for the first time since 1983, a team involved in the Stanley Cup playoffs will also have the first overall pick. Eric Bay joins myself in breaking down last night's event. Last night in the NHL, it was announced what team would have the first overall pick. Joining me today to discuss this is our Eric Bay. Eric, thank you for joining me.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Now, Eric, it was announced that the New York Rangers will be the team with the first overall pick. How does this affect the Rangers, especially after being involved in a series that might not have been close in wins, but a series that was close in play on the ice?
Yeah, I really think this does put them in a much better position than they were, a day ago. But again, they were already looking pretty good just the way their rebuild had been going. But I think this accelerates it even further. It's going to be tough, though. We'll see here how those goalies do develop. Again, they're obviously still both very young, coming up there behind Henrik Lundqvist. So it's all going to depend how the young guys mesh with those veterans. But the future is looking very bright with the New York Rangers. And I think kudos really goes to them and GM Jeff Gorton. Obviously, they said that they were going to be doing the massive teardown. They sent out that letter to their fans. And I think it's really been quite painless just as far as rebuilds go, especially when you look at what's happening right now in Buffalo and even Edmonton. So I think this just helps them get that step up, and I'm pretty sure we're all going to go back to hating the New York Rangers here very soon.
For sure, and you mentioned it, Buffalo and Edmonton is, as of late, have been the two clubs that have really taken a long time to redevelop. And we see, the Rangers, they just got Capo Caco with the 2nd overall pick last season. Now, I know it was an expanded play-in, but they still were a team that made that play-in, and we did see some bright moments there. I'm just thinking, what a 1st overall pick could do on a line with, say, someone like Artemi Panarin, who's up for the Hart and is up for the Ted Lindsay, or Mika Zibanejad, one of the most underrated players in the league. This could be exciting, and especially if they do pick the sort of consensus number 1 overall, Alexis Lafreniere. And I mean, Eric, what do you think about Lafreniere?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you saw all you needed to at the World Juniors, right? I mean, the guy was dominant. He really carried Canada, put them on their back, especially at a few points there when it looked kind of dire for the Canadians, especially there that first game against the U.S. obviously is kind of the shining point. But you just look at what he does bring. He's got the playmaking, he's got the goal-scoring ability. He plays that forward position very well, and I think, again, he's obviously made himself the number 1 pick far and away, and I don't really see any doubt of the Rangers picking him unless they do want to pursue a trade, which I also don't see happening because, again, this was all about Lafreniere, and there's good reason for that. Again, no offense there to guys like Tim Stutzel, but Lafreniere is obviously the cream of the crop when it comes to this season.
He for sure has been the focal point of this year's draft. And like you said, for the right reasons. He was the MVP of the World Juniors this past year. He also played in the World Juniors 2 years before he was draft eligible. The only other 2 players to do that in the last 20 years are Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby. As well, he won back-to-back CHL top player awards. Again, the last player to do that was Sidney Crosby. So when you're being put in the same discussion as these all-stars, these superstars who are dominating the league and have continued to dominate the league for however long, it is for the right reasons that Lafreniere is the sort of consensus number 1 overall pick. Now, Eric, I want to ask you, out of the sort of next tier of guys, who's your favorite there?
Yeah, I think obviously a guy like Tim Stutzel, who I already mentioned, he's obviously pretty good and pretty exciting for a German too to be kind of at that top level. Marco Rossi as well there. He's done extremely well in the CHL this season. Another guy who's kind of a favorite of mine, Jamie Drysdale. You talk about playing in the World Juniors and a guy who really rose to the occasion, especially as a guy who had not yet been drafted on a roster like Team Canada. I'm sure he's going to be very exciting too. So it's not all doom and gloom for those bottom teams, the LA Kings, the Ottawa Senators, Detroit Red Wings, who didn't get that 1st overall pick. There's still some bright spots there too, especially at the top of the draft.
And now as we go down the remaining spots in the draft, Minnesota will have the 9th overall pick, Winnipeg 10th, Nashville 11, followed by Florida at 12. 13th will be Carolina, receiving from Toronto for a trade for Patrick Marleau. And then 14, Edmonton, and 15 is potentially Pittsburgh, or it could potentially be Minnesota. Eric, it's always a pleasure getting to chat hockey with you. Thank you for joining me.
No problem. Always great. Looking forward to the first official round of the playoffs.
Taking a second look now at your evening weather. Rain is starting to come in, coming from the southwest, as I mentioned earlier. Everywhere in the Alberta region is currently looking right around that 20-degree mark. 21 out in Rocky Mountain House, 21 as well in Red Deer. 13 in Whitecourt is one of the coldest for that region there. Now taking a look at the Saskatchewan side, 24 in Saskatoon, 23 in Melfort and in Prince Albert. As I mentioned earlier, 21 in North Battleford and 22 in Meadow Lake. Taking a look now at the northern parts of the region, again hovering around that 20 or so degree mark. Slave Lake is a little lower there at 13 degrees right now, but Grand Prairie and Peace River both seeing 18 degrees, as well as in Fort Chipewyan. Taking a look now on the Saskatchewan side, 22 in Flin Flon, 18 out in South End, and 17 in Wollaston Lake. Now looking at the southern parts of the regions, 29 in Medicine Hat. That is currently the warmest for all of Alberta. 25 in Lethbridge, and then 22 in Calgary and in Banff. Again, taking a look at the southern region, 28 in Estevan is the warmest for Saskatchewan. 27 in Moose Jaw, not far behind as well. 25 in Regina, 26 in Swift Current, and 24 out in Kindersley. Taking a look now at your national weather, 18 degrees in Vancouver and 19 in Edmonton with that rain and that chance of precipitation coming out from there. 25, as I just mentioned, in Regina. 26 in Winnipeg as they're keeping their heat streak going throughout this whole summer. 27 in Toronto, 29 in Quebec City, the warmest on our map here. 21 in St. John's and 22 in Halifax as well. Taking a look up north, 14 in Iqaluit, 22 in Yellowknife, and 14 in Whitehorse are some warmer temperatures than we are used to seeing. Taking a look at tomorrow's temperatures, they are looking very similar, right around that 20-degree mark. And as I mentioned, we have a chance of rain coming for the area. That should die down around noon tomorrow. Same thing in the Saskatchewan side, all hovering right around that 20-degree mark. And now as we take a look at your 7-day forecast, 20 degrees on Thursday is the high with a chance of sun and cloud. That will continue on Friday. 19 is the high, as well as Saturday, both seeing that mix of sun and cloud there. Then 22 on Sunday. Things should start picking up again next week, as 22 on Monday as well with lots of sun, before 26 a week from now. That's all we have for weather for now, but we'll be back with more news after the break.
Welcome back, everybody. We're joined once again this week for Pet Project with Becca Lawrence from the Lloydminster and District SPCA. How are you doing today, Becca?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So I see we got ourselves a cute little dog in this week. Who do we got?
Yeah, this big guy here is Rocky. So he came into the shelter probably about a month ago, maybe a little bit more. So he's been hanging out with us for a bit. So his whole deal is just that he was originally from us before. So then what we've found out is that he can be a bit dog aggressive and cat aggressive as well too. So he'll need to go to a home without other animals. But as far as humans, he seems pretty delighted to meet everybody.
Well, I mean, I've been talking with you off camera for about the last 5 minutes, and he was just a little sweetheart sitting there. He was waiting for his treats. He seems like a really nice dog around people, of course.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And how are you guys doing for cats?
Yeah, we're not doing too bad. We're still kind of full, but we're not, we don't have as many adult cats in as we do kittens right now. So that's obviously, again, kitten season, so it's our biggest issue, I guess, right now. So we are still full on cats, but our dog numbers have gone down pretty low this last week too, so that's been pretty nice.
Well, that's good to hear, and I know people do love adopting kittens because you get to get them while they're still, at their smallest, most adorable life period. So if anybody out there is looking for an adorable little kitten, obviously stop by. The SPCA has lots of them. As always, Becca, I always like to ask if you guys need any items for donations, as you are a nonprofit. So is there anything you guys are in a special need of this week?
Yeah, actually, we are quite low on our adult cat food and our kitten food as well too. So that is something that we've kind of put out there as well for people if they can donate a bag or two, and we would really appreciate that. But just with this kitten and cat season, we've gone through quite a lot of food.
Beautiful. Yeah, so if anybody out there is, stopping by PetSmart or anything like that and wants to grab an extra bag, the SPCA could always use it. And we were talking earlier, Becca, just again off camera, but you mentioned that you guys recently got a fairly large donation of sorts. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so quite a few companies. I also, of course, I can't remember every single one offhand, but we put them all on our Facebook. But yeah, we've had quite a few. We've had quite a few donated, sea cans, a semi-trailer that is for storage. And, but yeah, like we've had quite a few companies come together for us, and they've donated these things for us so that we can get some of the stuff out of the shelter and into a better storage area. We got one for our bottles because we were having a bit of an issue with people coming and stealing our bottles. So that's been really nice too, that we can store them in a safe place and closer to the building. And yeah, so it's basically just we're starting to get some stuff outside and stored better.
Beautiful. And you were mentioning that you guys were actually looking for local artists who might be interested to perhaps do some painting with those sea cans. So do you want to put out, a bit of an all-points bulletin to let the people know what kind of you're looking for?
Yeah. So I mean, like I thought first, like we've kind of reached out to some of the youth groups to see if maybe some of the kids want to come. Obviously we'll do it the safest way possible. Smaller groups kind of thing. But yeah, I thought maybe like the bottom half of our areas we could get the kids to do. And then obviously the top half, a little bit higher up for some of our, other local artists that might want to come and put some nice little stuff on there. We obviously appreciate these trailers and stuff, but if we can spruce them up and make them look nice and pretty, then that's something that we're really interested in doing right now.
Beautiful. And so if there are any artists out there, how would they go about getting in contact with you, Becca? Do you have an email or a phone number that would be best for them to get in contact with the SPCA?
Yeah, they can call us at the shelter just at 780-875-2809, or they can email me at giving@lloydminsterspa.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us again this week, Becca. I hope that, lots of talented artists out in the border city see this interview and they send you an email and we can get those sea cans looking nice and pretty for the SPCA.
We would love that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Becca. We'll see you next week.
Perfect. Thank you.
Manage your waste and recyclables with Quick Pick Waste Disposal. 100% locally owned and proud to serve and support the communities we call home. Quick Pick, the convenient solution to avoid pollution.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm speaking with Jerry from Carlson Wagonlit Travel. Thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
It's great. Thank you very much for calling.
Of course. With residents usually traveling for vacations during the summer, especially now in August, has it been busy this year, even with the pandemic going on?
Not really. It's been very difficult. We've had a little bit of travel arrangements going on into Western Canada, but as you know, Eastern Canada is still blocked for all of us. And so it makes it a little tough for people to plan vacations. You can still travel there. It's just that you're obliged to have a 14-day quarantine when you arrive in the Atlantic provinces, which would be one of our favorite destinations at this time of the year. So we have people who are going out of necessity, whether involved in a wedding party or something like that, but they know that they have to do the quarantine on arrival.
And what are some tips you'd give people that are wanting to travel right now to avoid COVID as much as possible?
Well, we've been closely monitoring what's been going on in our resorts, and they've come to us with numerous new protocols that they put in place. The airlines have a huge protocol for sanitization. The arrival people at the airport, the buses that transfer you to the resorts on arrival, how they clean their rooms. I mean, it's as good as it ever could be, even better than what we have back here in our own country.
And for people that plan to travel to the US, like for a vacation, what other destinations would you suggest instead, since people can't travel there at the moment?
It's a little tough right now because you can still fly into the US, you just can't drive in. So we have some people who are flying there because of essential services that they provide, or that they just have to visit some people because of a death in the family or something like that. But the flights are really minimal right now, so it's hard to make connections. So primarily right now, what we're selling is trips across Canada, or people are already thinking about going into New Year. So we're looking at planning vacations for people to their typical resorts in Mexico for late fall or early in 2021.
And compared to previous years, how many less people have been traveling right now? Like, has it been as busy?
Oh, no, of course not. No, the decrease is substantial. We've reduced our staff and our hours, and we're still servicing people who had travel plans for this fall, who have been canceled, not through the fault of their own. There's just not enough people, or the travel restrictions are forcing the tour companies to cancel their vacations. So we're helping them sort out their plans for future or getting future travel credits, or applying for refunds, or working with insurance companies to get their money back.
And speaking of fall, what can people expect for booking vacations and just anything different that they can expect for this fall?
Well, I think that they can expect some pretty good pricing, because that's already in effect now. We have a little bit of a restricted capacity because one of the tour companies has decided not to travel out of the West this winter. So there'll be a little bit of reduced capacity, which might keep the prices firm. But the hotels are anxious for people to arrive. The tour operators are anxious to get going again. All the protocols for safety are in effect. They're ready for people. A lot of the resorts reopened July 1st, some not till October 1st. So it just depends on where you're going and what your plans are. We would assist them to make it happen.
And have there been some cruise lines that have opened up?
Only a couple have started, and there were a couple of hiccups, and so they've actually pulled their service again. I think most of the cruise lines have pretty much written off the summer season, at least for Alaska and Eastern Canada and the New England states. And so they're primarily looking at travel for 2021 right now.
Oh, so have some residents been interested for cruise lines right now?
Oh yes, we've had people who their trips were canceled, obviously because of COVID, and they were given travel credits or really good discounts on their next cruise. And so they've already pre-booked for the next year, into the fall, even for next year.
And is there anything else you'd like to add for residents to know that are wanting to travel right now?
Well, soon the borders will reopen. It may not be to the US, but Europe's already opened up to Canadians. All the Caribbean is pretty much open to Canadians. They can be assured that the resorts are going to do everything possible to make sure their vacation goes smoothly. Some are concerned about not having travel insurance. Some of the resorts themselves have come up with their own insurance plans, so they're going to be protected when they get there. And so as soon as the restrictions are lifted, I think people will be ready to go, and we'll be ready for them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jerry.
It was a pleasure, and I just want to thank all our clients who are patient with us. We've done our best to bring all our people home when the crisis was involved, and I'm just glad we got everybody home safe.